This is a TalkStation original podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
Reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We are joined by Alexis K., former West Carteret cheerleader just for a little bit, and now a dance team captain at Vanderbilt. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Alexis, we're doing this series where we're talking to former county student athletes who we like to say are taking, I told somebody unusual, and I said that doesn't really have a positive connotation. So let's call it unique. As far as I know, you are the only member of a dance team in the for a SEC school. So if there is anyone else out there, they can let us know. But I think you're it. So that definitely qualifies you as unique.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Tell us how a West Carteret girl finds herself in the SEC, the captain of the dance team at Vanderbilt.
Yeah, well, my senior year, I knew that I wanted to apply to Vanderbilt. I was between UNC and Vanderbilt, but my cousin attended Vanderbilt and loved it. So I decided to apply early there and then auditioned for the team. And it's just kind of flowed along ever since then. I didn't really ever think I would end up in this position and like looking back during my high school years, but it's been such a great experience. So
I did a story on Alexis to see when this ran. This was last summer. And I think the big part of it was just you overcoming doubts that you were really hesitant to go to school there, weren't you?
Yeah, it was very stressful. Like I knew at UNC I would know a lot of people and be surrounded by like more of my peers, like from West Carteret and from North Carolina, but I really didn't know of anybody going to Vanderbilt at the time, so it was definitely a challenge, but I'm so glad that everything worked out the way it did.
Well, tell us about your life in dance and how that started and how it got you to where you are today.
Yeah, so I started dancing when I was 18 months old. My parents put me in classes, and I started competitive dancing when I was, I think, like 5 or 6 years old. And then I just kind of never stopped from there. I danced with Dirty Justice all my life, so at Justice Elite Dance, which is still in Moorhead, and would kind of spend my weekends like training in the fall and the summer, and then during the spring we were kind of out of town traveling for competitions every weekend. So I knew dance was something I wanted to keep pursuing after high school because it's something that I dedicated so much of my life to, and so that was something that I definitely looked for like in the colleges I was looking at. So Vanderbilt had the great mix of academics and athletics for me. So,
and it sounded comparable to me when I talked to you to travel softball or travel baseball or basketball. Any sport? Yeah. Dance was just all encompassing for you, right? You were doing it year round, all the time.
Yep, year round.
And didn't give you much time for athletics at West. You tried cheerleading 1 year, and it just didn't turn out too well for you, did it?
Yeah, I was having to miss like some of my dance practices, and it was getting really complicated. And ultimately, I just knew that obviously, like West Carteret has great cheerleading, but I just loved dance so much more, and so I didn't really want to jeopardize that because I knew that was something I was wanting to pursue.
And the one season you did do it suffered an injury, right?
Yeah, got a concussion like my first few months in, so tough break.
That definitely made you think maybe this isn't for me, huh?
Yeah, my mom said that too. She was like, I don't know if this is great for you.
And somebody fell on you, right?
Yeah, yep.
Wow.
So
you said that's enough for cheering.
Yeah. We were done after that, but it was nice. It was a nice experience.
And Carolina and Vanderbilt, that's who it came down to for college?
Yeah, that's the two that I ended up applying to in the end, and so it was going to be one or the other. But
and did it go right down to the wire? Was it a really tough decision?
Well, I knew that if I was faced with like the prospect of being able to go to both schools, I was not going to be able to decide. So I applied early decision to Vanderbilt, which is like a binding application. So I was going to but it also lets you find out early. So I found out on December 15th whether I got in or not. And if I did get in, I was like bound to attend because it has like a slightly higher acceptance rate than regular decision. So I knew that was the way to go because I knew that if I was looking at both UNC and Vanderbilt at the same time, it would be so hard to make that decision. So I kind of forced the decision on myself with that.
I was going to say that's smart. Kind of boxed yourself into a corner there, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I knew I'd be happy at either place, so it wasn't really like a win or lose situation. So
And then, so you had the doubts about even going to the school. And then once you got to the school, you kind of had a double dose of doubts there where you didn't know whether you were going to try out for the dance team, right?
Yeah, well, we tried out before. I tried out in May before I got to school in August for the team, after I got in. And I did debate it for a while just because it's obviously intimidating dancing at an SEC school where it's just, I feel like everything is elevated and a lot harsher than at other colleges and universities. So that was really intimidating, but ultimately I just decided if I was going to do it, I needed to at least try, or else I was going to be upset at myself for not auditioning. So I'm so glad that I did, because it's really changed my 4 years and my experience here for the better. So,
well, tell us what it's like being a dance team member at Vanderbilt. What does a typical week look like?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So the events that we dance at, for athletics, we dance at all of the home football games, and we travel to one or two of the away games each year. And then we do almost all of the home basketball games for men's and women's. And then we travel with them to the SEC tournaments. And then if they go to March Madness, we travel with them. And then we also went to the postseason for football. So our team went to the Birmingham Bowl this year, so we went with them. And we also do a few baseball games each year. But then aside from those, which are on top of our normal practices, our normal practice schedule is we have 3 practices each week, which are about 3 hours long. And usually they're from either 6 to 9 a.m. on Tuesdays and Wednesdays this semester. And then we have Thursdays from 4 to 7 p.m. And then we also have 2 team lifts during the week for an hour each, also usually in the morning. And then we have 1 separate practice that's just an hour long in the week. So pretty much every day, every week, practice or game of some sort. So
for all intents and purposes, you're a Division I athlete.
Yeah, it's very intense. So that's what Vanderbilt actually, during my 4 years, it's been really cool because we've gotten incorporated into athletics because the dance and cheer teams used to be a part of marketing at Vanderbilt. But my freshman year, we got a new athletic director, Candace Lee, who started working to incorporate the spirit programs into athletics. So we have so many more resources and different benefits than we did when I started. So it's been really cool seeing us being treated as athletes now and being recognized for all that we do.
About 20 hours a week, I think you told me that you practice?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. And then when you're not doing football in the fall and basketball in the winter, you all have a competitive season in the spring.
Yeah, we do. So that's right now we're dual training. All of our practices are taken up for nationals, which is the second week of April, I believe. So it's always a challenge in these first few months where there's so many home games for basketball. And the way that the SEC does it is that during the spring, after January 1st, you're only playing conference opponents. So all of our games have been super big, statement games since January 1st. So it's been pretty challenging balancing those games and the rigor of that with our nationals routines. But it's just very exciting to see everything. And so obviously everyone on the team loves being a part of cheering for our sports at Vanderbilt, especially this year, and our competitive national season. So it's been really cool. And
finished, 4th in the country your sophomore year?
Yep.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Awesome. That was a great experience. So.
Is this your senior season?
Yes, it is.
Well, wow. What a senior year to be, what a time to be a Vanderbilt Commodore. I
feel like anyone that's asked me, I just tell them it's the best senior year I ever could have asked for. Never would have expected it, but I'm so glad that it's happened.
You've done some things and you've seen some things, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what a reward for someone who graduated in 2021. And I think, JJ, you actually covered the graduation at West Carteret, where you were senior class president, Alexis?
I gave one of the graduation speeches.
That's what you gave one of the speeches and talked about resiliency and how when you guys came in, it was Florence, and then it was COVID on your way out. That's actually not the first story you've written about her. Not really. You did a box score for a beach run race in 2008. I know it was you that wrote it because you were the low man on the totem pole at that point. And Miss K was in the 8 and under group.
Wow.
Along with Emmeline Fisher and Delaney Paget and all these
God
other
bless.
people.
I've been writing about her for a long time.
This is what it is to work in a newspaper.
Funny.
Wow.
No, but I mean,
I've been writing about her for 10 years.
You've been writing for a long time.
Good Lord.
More than 10. 2008, yeah.
Good Lord. Her whole life.
17 years.
Wow.
Man, that's crazy.
That's awesome.
But no, you go from a high school experience where it's totally inconsistent and up and down and crazy stuff is happening. So good for you for getting to have a nice experience at Vanderbilt, especially here at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been awesome for sure.
So let's go over some of the things Alexis has seen. So in the fall, Vanderbilt beat Alabama in football 40-35. Alabama was number 1 in the country at that time. Vanderbilt had played 60 games up to that point against the AP top 5 and had lost every single one. They had not beaten Alabama on the field in 40 years. They had a 23-game losing streak to them. And Alexis K is there to see it all. History.
Yeah.
Tell us about that day.
It was insane. I remember this is like a crazy story. That game, both of our head coaches were out of town that weekend because they both had like prior events going on. And so we had some of our like alumni members that come in and help with coaching that were coaching, but a lot of the responsibility was falling on me and the other captain that day for coaching the teams. And I remember before the game, I was with some of the other seniors, and we were just really stressed out because obviously it was a huge game, and we were trying to make sure that we'd remembered everything. And so we were like taking pictures, and I was getting like very stressed out. And the other captain was like, "Okay, Lexi, you need to come and just like sit down, like and ground yourself with me." So we were thinking of like the JJ McCarthy before the national championship. So we went and sat and had our backs against the goalpost. And we're just like sitting there breathing for a little bit on the field before the game. And then at the end of the day, that goalpost that we like grounded ourselves under was the one that got torn down by the fans and then thrown in the river. So it was crazy when we realized that. But it was just a great game. Like sometimes in the past 3 years, like we've obviously, like you said, faced a lot of tough opponents, and it hasn't always gone our way, but it just felt like everything that day just kept going our way. And like getting to share that experience of like rushing the field with my teammates and then getting to see all my friends, like my freshman year roommate, who's one of my super close friends, came and found me on the field, and just getting to run around with everyone. It was just an unforgettable experience.
Did you go down with them, taking the goalpost down into the Cumberland River?
Unfortunately, we were not allowed to, but I'm looking, like, I have the picture printed out. It's on my desk of us, like me and all my teammates, like standing there, like in shock in front of the goalpost as it's getting torn down on that day. But we didn't go to the river, but we all got to celebrate after, and it just felt like the whole campus was like electric that night. Just everyone was so excited. So it's definitely one of the best days, probably the best day of my entire college experience ever. So
they've been playing football.
Very great.
They've been playing football at Vanderbilt since 1902, and you're probably there for the biggest win in 125 years of football.
I know.
Pretty cool.
It was crazy, crazy.
Well, the other wild thing about that is you all were coming off of 2 straight losses, and one of those to Georgia State. So I don't think anybody saw that win coming.
No, it was definitely not expected by any of us. I remember our first game of the season was against Virginia Tech, and we ended up winning that game, which we were, like, those of us that came from past seasons, we'd, like, take wins we don't get them a lot usually in past seasons, so anytime that we would win, we were so excited. And I remember standing there, like, with the freshmen after the first game, like, when we had beat Virginia Tech, and I was like, guys, this, like, you need to appreciate how this feels, because this is not something that we all get to experience all the time, but it felt like it just kept happening this season for us. So it was just an amazing last season to have for football.
And then just in case you think the winter is going to be boring, maybe the men's basketball team upsets number 9 Kentucky, and just a week before a week ago before that game, you knocked off number 6 Tennessee. Both times the students just pouring onto the court.
Yep.
Are you trying? Are you trying not to get killed at that moment?
Yeah, that's our first game against Tennessee, which that's just so incredible for us because Tennessee's obviously like our big state rival. Like anytime that we play Tennessee, it's so crazy because the schools are so close that it is just, that game was so loud on both sides, which was such an awesome experience. But the Tennessee weekend, we have like a more non-traditional basketball court where our teams sit on the baselines instead of the sidelines. And so we're on the actual like sidelines of the court, like right in front of the student section, because it's like an elevated court in our gymnasium. So the students are like partially below us and then the stands extend up. But we were sitting there on the baseline and the buzzer wound down too fast. Usually our coaches would pull us like before, but the last plays of the game happened so quickly that they didn't have time to pull us. And so all the students just came pouring onto the court. And so we're standing there trying to like protect all the freshmen. So for the Kentucky game, they ended up pulling us off the court with about a minute and a half to go like stand in a corner. And then they told us like once everyone had brushed the court, like you guys are allowed to go back out and find your friends and take pictures and stuff. But it was funny seeing like we actually had like a court storming procedure in place, which I've never seen during my time at Vanderbilt, which is awesome. I'm so glad that that's something that has to be in place now.
Those are champagne problems, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
And the first court storming led to a $250,000 fine.
Well, come on now.
I'm sure, and you all was like, we don't care, we're doing it again.
I mean, look, this doesn't happen every day. Like she said, it's not something that they're used to, and if you're going to get a chance to do it, now's the time.
Yeah, that's what all my friends, like I think our athletic director went to the student section. I think I saw on Twitter like a picture of her like standing in front of the students, like asking them to not storm the court, because when we stormed for Kentucky, it ended up being a $500,000 fine. But I don't think there was any way you could have stopped the students from getting on that court, especially most of the students in that section, like the seniors that are like my close friends that I've obviously have been there through it all. And I don't think there's any way you could have stopped them either of those weekends. So
yeah, if a week from now you guys beat Auburn, I don't know. Might be one of those.
Big one.
Well, $1 million fine. We're not.
And also making it even more special, I think, is that's the oldest arena in the SEC. They've been playing basketball there since like World War II. So I'm sure that makes it feel like something right out of a movie when people storm the court, right?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was such a great experience.
And what a role the basketball team, that was the second straight sellout. That's the first time they've had back-to-back sellouts since the 2011-2012 season. And then Zach, you looked up that stat that I was dying to find.
Yeah, it's they have not beaten
Alabama.
They've not beaten Alabama football or Kentucky basketball in the same year in 55 years since the 1969-1970 season. And we've talked about it in other episodes where, you know, it usually starts with football because it's in the fall and it's a large program. It's the big money program. But when multiple programs, especially starting with football, start to have success, it raises everyone's not just morale, but competitive level.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah, for the rest of the season. And I wonder if you have felt that. I mean, have people just been in better moods around campus?
I think definitely. There's just been like such an energy. Like anytime that, obviously I'm so proud to be associated with athletics and to be on the dance team. But I feel like this year especially, anytime that I've met someone new and like it's come up that I'm on the dance team, they're like, oh my goodness, that's so awesome. You've gotten to be at all these awesome games. And I think it really does. Like there's been so much growth in all the sports this year. Like basketball was like very much a wild card, I feel like, at the start of the season, because basically our whole basketball team was transfers this year. Like I think we had like 4 or 5 returning players, and some of those were the walk-ons who don't really play. And then obviously we had a new coach, Coach Byington, this season. And so I think nobody really quite knew what to expect going into that, but they played amazing. And even the women's basketball team, we had a player last week against Florida, our freshman, Michaela Blakes, broke the record for D1 scoring in either men's or women's basketball by a freshman. She scored 53 points against Florida last week, which is just insane. I think we've really just seen it, that all the success and like all the investment that Vanderbilt has put in athletics, like through like different alumni and NIL, has just really paid off. And it's been awesome being able to see how the students have changed because of it.
You're just there for all the historic stuff, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And you sounded like you're pretty up to date on what's going on there with football teams and the men and women's. Is that something like, is that required that you have to know who the players are and coaches are, or is that just because you're a good student and a good dance team captain?
I think, well, I love sports. My parents raised me, like growing up, we're such a big sports family, mainly football, not as much basketball, but I've loved college basketball since coming, and our women's team, like obviously it's a lot more relevant to follow men's basketball, like most of the students know like all the players, but the women's team is like a team that has always been so like close with the dance team. Our coaches are really close friends, so we do a lot of things together, and we were able to go, they went to the March Madness tournament last year and we traveled with them. So it's been so awesome seeing them this year. They're ranked number 24. They've been ranked for 2 weeks in a row, which hasn't happened in such a long time. So it's just been really awesome being able to keep up with them as well. They also beat Tennessee the day after the men beat Tennessee. So it's just been an incredible year for sports all around.
Just the salad days at Vanderbilt. I mean, just killing it. And,
yeah.
And in addition to her time on the dance team and traveling with and going to football games and men's basketball games, women's basketball games, Alexis has always taken her academic career as seriously. At West Carteret, she was the salutatorian with a 4.6 GPA. She graduated summa cum laude. She was class president. She was youth and government president. And all that has continued at Vanderbilt, correct?
Yep, pretty much.
I think when I read about you last summer, at that point you had a 4.0. You were a political science major. You were the programming committee chair for the Phi Alpha Delta Law Fraternity and a lead undergraduate research assistant at the Vanderbilt Research on Conflict and Collective Action Lab. You had interned for Sherry Beasley for North Carolina for U.S. Senate. You had interned for the office of Governor Roy Cooper. You had interned for the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee and for the Calvert Street Group. And I think your quote after I wrote all that was, "I'm a little busy."
Yeah, all that remains true. So still busy.
So what's life like for you with not only athletics, academics, your senior year? What does the future look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I actually took a job offer in New York, so I'll be doing like client service-based consulting in New York after I graduate. A lot of my friends have been working at this company, and a ton of my friends are going to New York City as well. So I'll be living with some of my friends from Vanderbilt, and then also one of my home friends from West Carteret next year. So I'm very excited. It's super nice to have like a job locked down since November. Obviously, I'm still super focused on school and academics like I always have been, but it just gives me a little more room to kind of enjoy my last semester and really be able to soak in all the awesome experiences that I get through dance and also just being a student and living in Nashville. So
living in a big city, has that always been a goal?
Yeah, I was pretty sure that after I graduated, I wanted to go to either D.C. or to New York, and New York City just ended up working out. So I don't think I'll live there for too long. I'm probably about like 3 or 4 years would be my max, and then I'll probably end up back in North Carolina. Or the goal is actually to go to law school, but I would love to go to law school in North Carolina somewhere. So that's the current track. But no, I'm very excited for the future.
And are we staying in the political world here?
Well, I'm doing more like consulting-based work, like working with some political clients, but just mainly like general consulting for a few years just so I can save some money for law school, because when I worked at Calvert Street Group, it was political consulting, which I absolutely loved. So I think that'll be a great role for a few years, and then hopefully to law school, and then who knows after that, probably practicing law, but could go back to political. Just depends on what's happening at the time.
Do you think you're going to be bored in adult life after this schedule you've had in college?
That's what I always joke with my coach about, because she cheered in college, but she told me, she was like, you're going to have to start taking some 6 a.m. workout classes now and doing all these things. So it'll definitely be a big shift trying to fill my time after I feel like I have no free time. But I wouldn't have it any other way. So we'll see.
Well, JJ, in the story you wrote last summer, you'd mentioned that Alexis had started taking up running. You were maybe looking at your first half marathon. Did you end up running that?
Yeah, I did. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
So, sorry, have you got the running bug now?
Well, I did. I had a minor, I think it was just an overuse injury on my shin after that. So I didn't run for 3 or 4 months after. I ran the half at the very end of July. But then I think probably once I stop dancing, I'll get back into running again. I always say that I'm not going to, but then I end up it's something about the summer, I think, and being able to run outside. So We'll see.
Well, Alexis, congratulations on just a phenomenal senior year at Vanderbilt. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.